getting into the weeds could really, like time, there's this fine line where it's like you want to keep the client on the phone long enough to get them to make a decision, but there is such thing as time kills deals, right? So it's like if you spend way too long on the phone with them, they're pissed, right? But also same thing with your follow-up processes, like if for whatever reason, whatever it is that you didn't close that deal in that moment, if you're taking a week to get back to that client, that's big problem. We need to be following up with that client the next day, in the next 2 days, because they already know what the timeline's gonna be. Like, what's your time, if they really do need to go for whatever reason, and you're like, well, what's the timeline? What's a good time for me to follow back up with you? Because you have to close them on something. Never get off the phone with the client and not close them on something, whether that's a next date that you're planning on talking to them, whether that's the new estimate that they have to get, or whatever it is. You have to close them on something to be able to have that next step. That's why sometimes in our follow-up process, we don't like following up because we feel like we're calling the client and bothering them because we didn't actually close them on the last call and us following up with them, right? It's the same thing with like scheduling an appointment or anything like that. Like you've got to close them. This is something actually he had taught me later on. I would get off the phone and I wouldn't close the deal and I'd be pissed off and he'd be like, what'd you close them on? And I'm like, nothing. Obviously there's no money in the bank, right? And he's like, but what did you close them on? He's like, you didn't close them on having another appointment with you. You didn't close them on anything. You just let them go off into the wind. And so you guys have to make sure that after you get off the phone, if you don't close the deal, close them on something, and that's probably going to be the next call that you have lined up with them. And if they say, I'm getting more quotes, perfect, not a problem. Are you planning on getting those quotes tomorrow or in the next 2 days? Because I'd love to follow up. And you framed it the right way. You were like, because I'm going to come back to you, right?
Write that down.
One thing I used to do at the end of my appointments, if like I went a couple rounds on objections and I couldn't get the customer to put a deposit down or something, I would just genuinely ask, be like, hey, like person to person, why are you deciding not to do this with us? And a lot of times I actually closed deals because of what answer I got from the customer. Because I kind of like took the sell out of it. I was like, hey, look, like just person to person, take the company out of it, take your situation out of it. What reason was it that you decided not to go with us? I just want to report back to my owner, that way we can grow from this. And then they'll usually say some shit, and then it gives you an extra opportunity to like rewrap them on whatever it is that they just said. Yeah. So sometimes just like being genuine at the end of it, be like, okay, like what's the reason that you decided not to go with us? Again, just thinking outside the box.
Yeah, I think we get so caught up in this like sales thing where we're like, we're trying to sell, and like we forget to be human. Right? It's like, it's just a conversation with somebody. Like, Corey, if you were calling you have a brother, right? If you were talking to your brother about the move, it would be a really casual conversation, right? Even when one of you guys was moving, you said someone quoted a move for you, right? Or somebody?
Yeah, Cody did.
Okay, like he had to quote a move for you, but that was just a casual conversation, right? You still had to get the same exact information, but it was just a conversation. If we go back to realizing it's just people talking to people, it's so much easier to just have a conversation than it is to get caught up in the sell. Now, we still have to do our jobs and we still have to be skilled, but we don't, it's like we're so scared to be direct with the client. We're so scared, like we're tiptoeing around asking for the money. We're like so scared because we don't want to get rejected, right? And we don't want to piss the client off. But at the end of the day, it's like if you can get really good at language, because if you don't close that deal because of a lack of skill, but you're so scared to try something new and you're so scared to like implement some of the things that we're teaching you, it's like at the end of the day, if you can't close the deal, you didn't have the sell anyways. It's gone, right?